if you haven't got a dog and don't have pets, you probably just don't get it. But, you know, the kids are all grown up. Archie now gets all of our attention, and we got him a present, and here he is opening his present. Archie's birthday today.
Am I going to give it to him? He's got it in here. It's yours. You got to open it. Go on in, open it, Arch. What you got? What you got? Open it.
He says, let go. Let me open it.
Go on in. Open it.
Good at opening presents, aren't you, Archie? Even other people's that were under the tree and not for you. You 5 today.
What's he got?
What is it? Just eat the paper. You're good at this, aren't you?
Got?
What you got, Archie? What you got? I want to do it. So get off, I want to do it. Let's go and get all use this now, shall we? We'll just go use this. Don't eat it. Don't eat it. Don't eat it. Where's it go? Where's it go? Ready. So, well, like I say, we're a bit daft with the dog, but he is just so adorable. You've got to. I just love that dog so much. Anyway, I'm going to do day 16 of my reverse advent calendar before I start. And today I'm going to include a carton of custard because that's one of the things the food bank is asking for right now. So that can go into my really quite heavy bag. And today I thought I would talk about books because sometimes at this time of the year, I find myself thinking, not a lot of money in the bank. And although I've budgeted and I've spent my Christmas budget, I have actually spent nearly all of my Christmas budget now. I've still got to do the food shop. So I tend to start thinking about money and how I'm going to manage money next year and how I'm going to maybe budget a little harder and that kind of thing. I'm already thinking about doing a no spend January, but I'll talk about that in a different video. But today I thought I would go through some of my inspiring books. So I don't know about you, but I do find that reading a book about somebody else's experiences with money or learning about somebody else's expertise with money and finance really is quite inspiring for me, and it will kind of get me back on the track and it gives me new ideas, and it's just, I find it really helpful. So I'm particularly drawn towards books that talk about frugality, but also books about organising your money. And then I've got a couple of books that I found on the shelf just now that I thought, I actually really need to give these some proper attention. One of them I'd forgotten even having. I don't know where it came from, and I certainly haven't read it. And one that I've had for a long time, I'm really aware of it, but I haven't properly read it. I've dipped in and out of it, and I think I will sit and make myself read that in the new year. So I'm going to share those with you. I couldn't get to the first one, the one that I always talk about first because it was my biggest inspiration, and that is the Tightwad Gazette, because it's on the bookshelf at the bottom behind the Christmas tree, and there are also a load of Christmas presents there as well now wrapped up. So I'm not going to move anything else out of the way. I managed to get hold of the ones that were smaller books at the top. But the Tightwad Gazette, I'll insert a little picture. The Tightwad Gazette is an absolute classic. It's from the 1990s. If you have yet to read the Tightwad Gazette, I would say maybe try and get it from your library first, because actually even secondhand copies are really quite expensive. And then buy the complete Tightwad Gazette, because it's got all of the newsletters, because basically that's what it was. It was a compilation of newsletters on money saving and frugality, and by Amy Decision. And she's a graphic designer, and she illustrated it all, and she set it out really beautifully, and it is so easy to dip in and out of, as well as just to read cover to cover. And I did that to start with because it's just very inspiring. Most of you who watch this channel will probably have come across it, probably have read it. Some of you I know have even got the original newsletters in the 80s and the 90s, because somebody did actually send me, I think it was Michelle, sorry if I'm wrong, Michelle, did actually send me some photocopies of her original newsletters that she had. So that was really interesting. But it is such a great book. You really have to read it. It's my starting point. It'll give you so many ideas. So even though it was written in the 90s, or actually probably the 80s, actually published in the 90s, it's such, this stuff doesn't go out of date. A lot of it doesn't. Most of it is just good, frugal, thrifty, common sense that perhaps even, you go back to war times, people would have used. And it kind of gives you permission to do the things that you might like to do to save money, but you feel a bit embarrassed about doing. Amy Decision just took a stance. She had a big family, she had a big house, she and her husband, they wanted to make it work. She didn't want to go to work, she wanted to be at home with her kids. And they did things like buy all of their children's clothing and their own clothing in America. Obviously, you get yard sales and that kind of thing, and from places like Goodwill and other thrift stores in America. So she wasn't embarrassed about doing that. She wasn't embarrassed about making gifts and buying secondhand gifts and making stuff and repairing stuff and just making do and cooking everything from scratch and approaching entertainment in a different way. And you read it and you think, there's so much creativity. There's so many ideas in this book, and you'll have more ideas of your own off the back of it, I think. That's certainly what I found myself. So that is my first recommendation. My second one, and these are just a pile I pulled off the bookshelf, so they're not in any particular order. But this one I brought up before as well. I mean, I've done this kind of video before, to be honest, but I thought not everybody has seen it, and it's Vlogmas, so I'm going to talk about this. The Moneyless Man. This is sort of early 2000s now. Mark Boyle. I think that it was really eye-opening to me, because the idea of living without money, I mean, I'm always looking to save money, but you think, how can anybody live with no money? So he set himself a challenge to live without money for a whole year. And he was coming from the point of view of being very kind of anti-capitalism, and knowing that, I mean, he was actually an economics graduate, so he understood about money, but knowing that we're not doing things the best way, really, for ourselves and for the planet and for everything, really. So he approached it from that point of view, set himself this challenge, and he got his own accommodation. He bartered and traded. He used a bicycle all year, hitchhiked, and he didn't spend any money for a whole year. And it's just mind-boggling, really, if you think about that. I just couldn't imagine how I would do it. No money at all. I couldn't do it with my setup, because I have a house and I have to run my house. So he was in rented accommodation, and he managed to actually get a caravan from Free Cycle, and then he managed to get it on somebody's land, and in return for having it on their land, he did some work in their vegetable gardens and those kind of things. So he used that kind of system, which if you're a single, young, healthy, fit man, you can do. Wouldn't really apply to all of us, but it certainly is food for thought, and we can learn some things about it, and it makes you think about money in a different way. So it's a good read as well. He writes really well. This is his early one. He did several after this. He writes for The Guardian from time to time, but since this and his, I think it's 2 or 3 others, the Money Manifesto is one of them, and then there's one about, I can't remember, I'll put the links below. But since then he has said, right, no technology at all. He's just completely given up on modern technology and turned his back on the world in a way, which, and part of me thinks, well, I don't blame you, because that's what you think about the world. And part of me thinks, no, but you're not really getting your message out anymore. But then I guess he's already got his message out, but I wish he would carry on and come back and update it rather than just do the odd handwritten article for The Guardian. He lives on a small holding in Ireland now, and I mean, he has used some money. Obviously, he's got money from the sale of his books, and he's bought a place in Ireland. So it's hard you can't ever really remove yourself from the capitalist society that you live in, because that's how we live, So it's very difficult to completely remove yourself. But he has done as much as possible now. And he lives with no technology, as I say. So he has no mobile phone, he has no computer. He reads books, he goes hunting, he grows his own food. He is involved in the community. And as I say, he handwrites articles. So that's what he's doing now. And it's very interesting. He's a very interesting, maybe slightly eccentric, but, we need eccentrics. We need people who are thinking differently at this point in time, in my view. And talking of which, this is another old one. These are all old ones. How I Lived A Year on Just £1 a Day by Kath Kelly. I got a feeling, I wonder if they knew each other. She was from Bristol area as well, where Mark Boyle was from. And she did a similar thing. She lived for £1 a day. So again, she did, I think she did have rent. So she didn't count her rent, but everything else, she lived on £1 a day. So she really did a lot of finding free food. So she was getting, I don't know if it was Olio then, I can't remember. It's been a while since I read this. She was getting food that was really at its expiry date, so it was really, really cheap, because she did find that she then put on loads of weight because she ended up buying loads of bread and cakes. She hitchhiked around the place. She did wild camping for holidays. And it was just amazing what she did, actually. She didn't buy any new clothing. She didn't have a haircut. She wanted to get a makeover. So for her brother's wedding, so she went into a department store and got them to do her a makeover. They obviously do that hoping that you're going to buy something. She didn't buy anything. I don't think you can do that now, because I've got a feeling a lot of those department stores have got wise to people going in for a makeover and don't let you do that anymore. However, it is still possible to get a free haircut. I recently had a free haircut, not this one, but I did have a haircut with a student. There was a notice up outside the hairdressers saying free haircuts. We want shoulder length or longer hair for our students. So I did go in and get a free haircut. But it's a similar vein in that, it makes you really think about how you can do things differently. So it's not necessarily that you would think you could live on £1 a day and, times have moved on. It would be hard probably even for Kath Kelly to do that now, but that you could think, well, if this person has done this and Mark Boyle has done that, I can do a lot better with my money and I can use a lot less. And then what I've got left over, I could do something really meaningful with. It's not with all of these books. It's not that I'm saying it's bad to spend money. I'm saying that a lot of us are struggling with money. So how can we make the best of the money we've got? How can we be really, really frugal where it doesn't matter? We won't feel it that much in order to use the resources we have to really do things that matter to us, that are going to enrich our lives, that maybe enable us to pay off our mortgage, for example, or maybe enable us to reduce the amount of working hours we have to do and spend more time with our families and our children or on our hobbies, or maybe we could take a lower paid job, those kind of things. So we can live a life that we enjoy more, or maybe we can have the traveling experience. Maybe we could do that a year out and, travel around Europe or something. It's kind of diverting your resources. For some of us, it might be that actually, if we don't live frugally, we will get into debt, or that we're already in debt. So now we're going to live frugally so we can pay off our debt. It's not all super positive, but what my point is, it's not just being mean. It's not being cheap. It's really being mindful with your money. So, and thinking about your purchases, and it's also to do with the planet for me as well, because we all have so much stuff, and me too, I have too much stuff we don't need, buy more stuff we don't need, as though there was a never-ending resource and that we're never ever going to run out, and it is a problem for us, isn't it? So that's my point of view anyway. You may or may not agree. Anyway, I'm going to mention this one because I'd be stupid not to, wouldn't I? So this is my book. It's Extreme Frugality, Save Money Like Your Grandma. And it's just all of the things I learned over the years, and a lot of it came from my blog, shoestringcottage.com, which is sadly neglected these days. I think I spend so much time doing YouTube, I don't have so much time to write for the blog. But I'm going to do that. I think that might have been last year's resolution, but I'm going to try and do better this year, because I need just to get on there, and there's a lot of good stuff on there. So I need to kind of republish it and update it and that kind of thing, and add some new things. A lot of it came from that blog, and a lot of it came from just my learned experience. And unfortunately, I do have to sell it through Amazon, but I would love to look and see if I can republish this another way. That's something else to look at for the future. But anyway, people have been very nice about it and said it was really helpful and that they enjoyed it. It was an easy read and they enjoyed reading it. So I'll leave the link below if you fancy buying that for yourself or for somebody else you think struggling with money. Extreme Frugality, Save Money Like Your Grandma by Jane Berry. That's me. Another old one. This was like the British version of the Tightwad Gazette, I feel. And these people, I've got a feeling they were up the road from me in Suffolk, because I'm in Essex. The Penny Pinchers book, and it was by John and Irma Musto. You can see it's quite old, it's very faded, and I think I got this one secondhand. And it's more of a list form. It's kind of organised into subject areas like, for example, I've just come across gardening. As soon as the wood ashes are cool, so this is assuming you have a fire, scoop them up and put them straight onto the garden. Egg boxes make good peat pots for starting plants. Well, that's the case if they are cardboard egg boxes. They probably didn't have the polystyrene versions when they wrote this book in the 90s. If you're lucky enough to find wool nylon mix yarn in green, it makes fantastic death-defying garden twine. Plan vegetables that will fill the hungry gap as well as your freezer. Fresh food from the garden is particularly welcome in the first lovely days of spring. If you're harvesting things you aren't quite so tempted to plant too early. So there's a couple of things from gardening. Let's have a look what else is there. DIY. Glue a piece of felt on the bottom of a ceramic tile for a heat-resistant mat. So that, I guess that would be if you want to put pots on in the kitchen to protect your surfaces. You can use plastic sheeting as double glazing over windows. You may even be able to find a converter or stockholder who's willing to sell you seconds. Repair an item instead of replacing it. Make tiny baubles for the Christmas tree from a gaudy, large, shiny necklace. Jumble sales and charity shops will have them. String a large bead with 2 or 3 small ones and hang with the paper clip. You've got a little picture of that idea. So it's that kind of thing. It's just like little pithy ideas. And I quite like this. I did enjoy reading it. And I learnt from it when I did read it some time ago, as I say. So I think it's still available. You probably find it secondhand. The Penny Pinchers book. This one, oh gosh, this is so dirty. This is so filthy. I think I must have put my coffee cup on it or something. That's not good, is it? So this is one that I have read and then keep dipping into, and I would like to reread it actually, but I'm not going to read them all, am I? So this is Your Money or Your Life, and it's by Vicky Robin and Joe Dominguez. And it's been updated. I'm sure this has been updated. So you probably get a revised version. I think, if I remember right, Vicky Robin is still alive, but Joe Dominguez died. But it is, lots of people will tell you this totally changed their view of money and their relationship with money. And the crucial thing that people mention from this book, the crucial lesson, is thinking about the life energy you have given something before you buy it, before you spend your money. So think about how much of your life energy you put in to earn a certain amount of money in your day job, and then, you know, how much of that you're using to buy something. So, you know, if this cost me £10, how long did I have to work to buy this? And if you start looking at your purchases like that, it really does make you look at things differently. So it's very good for stopping impulse buying. I mean, there's a lot more to this book than that, but that's the one thing that really stands out, and a lot of people will mention this. You know, you spend so many hours at work. Most of us work, we have to work for someone else, and you put a lot of effort in that. It takes a lot of your time, and some of us are really underpaid for what we do as well, increasingly, I think. And so you think, well, how many hours did I have to work to buy that Xbox? And is it worth it to me? So maybe it is. Maybe your Xbox is your life. It kind of passed me by. My girls never really, I think they were just a bit too old for those things. But, you know, maybe that's your life. Maybe that's what you spend time doing. Perhaps you chat to all your friends while you're on your Xbox. Perhaps it's something really good. So in that case, that's a good purchase, isn't it? But if you've already got a couple of gaming systems and you buy another Xbox, or you want to buy the newest one, you've really got one that works fine, how many hours of your lifeblood have you had to put into your job in order to pay for that? So it's a very good book in terms of that. And it's just there's loads about changing your attitudes and budgeting and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of little sort of questionnaires to yourself to make you really think about things. And I don't know, it's a good book. It's a good book. Your Money or Your Life. And as I say, I think there's a much more up-to-date version, so that might be worth a purchase. And then the final one for now, there are other books that I like as well, but these were the ones that I could reach and could see behind the Christmas tree, was Possum Living. This is an interesting book, How to Live Well Without a Job and with Almost No Money by Dolly Freed. It is an interesting book. It's, again, you probably think this girl is really quite eccentric, and I think she is, but She and her dad really lived on nothing. They lived on just a little, I think it was half an acre. Oh yeah. Dolly Freed and her father have lived outside of Philadelphia in their own house on a half-acre lot for almost 5 years. That was when this was published, which was quite a long time ago. So I'd be interested to see what she's doing now. They produce their own food and drink and spend about $700 each per year. Dolly is 19 years old and lists her occupation as Chief Possum. But this was published a long time ago. Long time ago. I discovered these things late. Gosh, this was published in 1978. So she's older than me. So 1978. So it's about how and why they quit the rat race, how they made money, how they produced their own meat. So not for anybody. Slaughtering rabbits, she's got a section here. Catching fish, gardening, groceries, housing, low-cost housing, heating, electricity, clothing, health and medicine, including Dolly's depression dispersing directions, home remedies. How did I discover this? I actually found, I think, an interview with her on YouTube. So you might want to look at that first. And I thought, my goodness, she's an interesting girl. And that is an interesting way to look at life for a 19-year-old. I mean, when I was 19, I was up the pub every night with my mates. Things were cheap. You could go to the pub cheaply in those days. But I just didn't think twice about it. I'd go up and I'd get half a lager and I'd make it last me all night. But I didn't think twice about going out every night. I certainly wasn't worrying about housing costs and that kind of thing. I was living with my parents and letting them worry about those kind of things. But that's why it was interesting. I think that's a common thread, isn't it? They're all quite eccentric, these people. And I think that is because our today's society tells you that actually that's weird. Whereas, you took that back a generation or so ago, that kind of attitude of frugality and thrift, it was normal. Nobody had any money, particularly post-war and during the war. People had no money. So that's how they lived. And, even going back as far as sort of Depression era America, people lived like that because they had to live like that. And then a lot of those habits continued for a long time. But then at some point, we suddenly got an excess of stuff. And we've been living through a time where we've never had so much and we've never had so much money. And I think it's really now causing problems. And there's the people that have a lot and the people that don't have very much. And there's the environmental damage that's going on as well, connected to all that consumerism. So it does, when people think it's normal to just go and spend a fortune on anything, it's normal to buy as many clothes as they could possibly want. It doesn't matter if they're made in dubious conditions in a third world country. People don't think about that. They just think, this is a bargain. I'm going to buy this. I want to wear a different outfit tonight. And every week I want to wear something different. I want to buy as many books and as much media as I want to. I want to change the decor in my house every season. I want everything to be matching, and I want a new car and I want a new phone as soon as a new phone becomes available. And we live to excess, a lot of us. I say we don't, because if you're watching my channel, I'm sure you don't. But it's just being a bit eccentric and allowing yourself to be a bit eccentric and a bit different and hoping that it becomes mainstream. And I did do that video a little while ago about how it's become kind of trendy to be an anti-consumer on TikTok and to hashtag underconsumption. People showing off the fact that they're wearing clothes that they've had for 5 years and they haven't had their hair cut by a professional hairdresser for 10 years or whatever. People are actually saying, look, I'm making things last. I'm mending stuff. Look at me. Aren't I great? And there's become, it's becoming a bit of a fashion, and I hope it just becomes the norm again, but I don't think it will. This is the couple of books I mentioned. That this one's the one I forgot. What They Don't Teach You About Money, 7 Habits to Unlock Financial Independence by Claire Barrett. I do remember when I looked through it, I thought, I do remember starting to read this. I don't know how I forgot about it, but it looks like a really good book to teach you the basics of finance. So it's about, saving and investing and budgeting and that kind of thing. So I'm going to have a better look at that. And then this is a classic from 1974, I think. Small is Beautiful. A study of economics as if people mattered. So E.F. Schumacher, when he wrote this all those years ago, he was already predicting the kind of problems we're having now of business being more important and profit over people and that kind of thing. So, you know, there's all these billionaires that own almost everything, and they control us all because they can decide to pay us or underpay us. They want to pay us, and then they want us to go and buy more of their products that keep them rich and that kind of thing. I mean, God, I'm sounding like I'm getting quite political, but this is how I feel at the moment. I feel that it's so unfair. Life is so unfair, and it isn't to do with anymore how hard you work. You know, if you work hard, you'll do well. I don't think that comes into it anymore. You can work hard, do well, and it only takes a couple of things to go wrong, and there may be no safety net for you. So I think that these books help you to think about your long-term security as well as everything else. So, you know, you can spend as little as you want in order maybe to have some savings and investments, or, you know, in order to have a stash of food and whatever you might need. You know, people are saying you should have enough food for 6 months and that kind of thing. I saw NATO the other day saying that countries should be getting their heads into thinking about being on a war footing, and I think they mean spending more on defence and that kind of thing because of the threats from Russia and other places. And so I know we can't control all of that, but we can control ourselves, can't we? So this book, anyway, was going back to the message of this book. It was about, you know, keeping things small, so keeping business small, making sure the workers were paid properly, making sure you looked after your workers, making sure they had healthcare and that kind of thing. Not just creating lots of environmental pollution at any cost, not putting profit over people or the planet. I'll read the back. So, Small is Beautiful looks at the economic structure of the Western world in a revolutionary way, for Dr. Schumacher maintains that man's current pursuit of profit and progress, which promotes giant organisation and increased specialisation, has in fact resulted in gross economic inefficiency, environmental pollution and inhumane working conditions, which is more or less what I was just saying, wasn't it? So I'm going to read this again this year and have a good look at it. It's a bit of kind of, it can be a bit depressing because you think, what can I do? I can't change it. But all you can do is change yourself and do what suits you and think about yourself and your family and do your bit. So I kind of think I can't stop climate change, but I can try and reduce my impact on it. I can do small things to reduce my impact. And I think, you know, it's so easy to go, it's too big, these issues are all too big, I'm going to do nothing. And I certainly have been that rabbit in the headlights for a number of years, really. And now I'm thinking, no, do something, because doing something makes you feel better. Doing nothing makes you feel worse. And that is the same whether you're looking at your finances, you know, doing nothing. I've got debt, I haven't got enough money, I'm going to put my head in the sand and ignoring it. It's hard to face things like that, money issues. But once you do, and then you're doing small things to try and make a positive difference, then you start to feel better. So I think that's what all of these books do. They kind of make you face stuff and then make you do better. So anyway, that got a little bit teachery and lectury, didn't it? I don't really know where that came from. Never mind. Anyway, I am off to do a birthday ball time with Archie with his new ball and stick. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to give me the thumbs up, and I will see you for day 17 of Vlogmas tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.